Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. So today we continue to study about the Buddha life. And last time we cover the part that uh, the lay person, Sudada, offer the Buddha Chetakro monastery and invite the Buddha as well as his monastic disciple coming to that monastery to stay, practice, and teach people in the area. So uh, when the rainy seasons was approaching, and the Buddha decided to spend that rainy season at the Chetakro monastery. So the senior disciple of the Buddha organized the retreat based upon the experience that they have at the Bamboo Grove Monastery in Magadha. And there were 60 new monks joined with the Buddhist communities in Sapatis at the Chetakro Monastery. And of course, the layman Sudatta brought many friends to see the Buddha and learn from him. And many of them became the Buddhists later on. So on one particular afternoon, the Buddha received a young man that rushed to the monastery and cried to the Buddha that his son has passed away. So he said that, "Oh, my son, where you gone?" So this young man could not eat, drink, or sleep because he lost his son. So the Buddha told him that because of love with attachment, this is suffering. So that young man, he denied and said that, sorry, you wrong. Love doesn't cause sufferings. Love only brings happiness and joy. So that man, after saying that, he left the monastery without waiting for the Buddha explaining wisdom by, if you have so much attachment, you may bring your own suffering. So this young man went to the city and talked with a group of gambling men on the street. So he told them about his interaction with the Buddha. So those men agreed with him that the Buddha was mistaken. So they say that how could love cause suffering? Love only brings happiness and joy. So you are right. The monk Gautama was wrong. So later on, this news spread throughout the Savatthi city and become a debate amongst many spiritual leaders who say that the Buddha was wrong about love. So somehow, eventually, this kind of matter reached to the king by Sendani. And that evening, he told to his queen that the people say that the Buddha was not a great teacher because he said that love is suffering. The king said that this morning I heard some palace officers hearing this news, and they say that according to him, the more you love others, the more you suffer. And so the queen said, if that's the case for the Buddha, it should be true. So the king somehow admonished his queen that you should not speak like that. You need to examine by yourself. Don't believe right away like a little child who believe everything that the parents say. So at that time, the queen knew that the king was not ready to understand the Buddha teaching yet. The next morning, the queen asked a close friends come to visit the Buddha and ask him whether or not he had said that was that means love is a source of suffering or not. If the Buddha explained why, she asked her friends to write carefully and brought back what Buddha said. So the next morning, the queen friends, Nelly Chan girl, went to see the Buddha and asked him the same question. So the Buddha said that recently I have heard a woman in Savatthi that lost her mothers. She was so grief-stricken that she lost her mind and has been wandering on the streets for several days and asked everyone once that have you seen my mothers? Have you seen my mothers? So I have heard that story, and another story is that two young lovers who commit suicide together because the girl's parents were forcing her to marry someone else. So these two stories illustrate that love can cause suffering. So the queen prince went back to see the queen and depict what the Buddha said to her. So so one day later on, the queen asked the king when they were sitting together. So she asked that, my dear king, do you love and cherish our princess, Chiri? So the king replied that definitely I love her. And of course, the king was so surprised to wonder why the queen asked this question. And so the queen asked further, if something's happened to her, would you suffer? So at that moment, the king was surprised and he recognized clearly that the state of suffering exists in love. So his sense of well-being was replaced with worry because of his love and attachment to his daughter, the princess. Somehow it struck his mind to remember what Buddha said, love is suffering. And he told the queen that tomorrow I will visit the Buddha to discuss about this matter. The next day, the king said Nadi came along to visit the Buddha without even a guard. So he went straight to the Buddha mansion and asked the Buddha that people praise you as a Buddha, the one that had attained perfect enlightenment. But somehow I have a doubt when you say that love is suffering to compare with other great masters such as Puna and so forth. They are much older than you, so they don't claim themselves as attaining total enlightenment. So do you know these teachers? And so Buddha said, yes, definitely, I know them. Your monastery, I have heard of them and have met some of them in person. But somehow, please take a note that spiritual duration does not depend on the age. The months and years do not guarantee the presence of the enlightenment. So you need to recognize that this is something that you could not look down upon, like the prince, a young prince, a small snake, a spark of fire, and young monk. So a prince may be young, but he possesses the characteristics and destiny of a king. Soon later, he will ascend to the throne and control and take charge of the whole kingdom. So you're not supposed to look down upon the young prince. And the next one is a small poisonous snake. Even it's too little, it can kill a grown man in an instant. So you're not supposed to look down upon a little poisonous snake. And you need to be careful about a spark of fire. That little fire can burn entire forest or the city. So you need to be careful even with a little fire. And a young monk, you should not look down upon because that young monk can attain enlightenment later on. So dear king, a wise person never look down upon a young prince, a little snake, a spark of fire, or a young monk. So at that moment, somehow the king Pasadani looked at the Buddha and he gained some kind of trust and impression about the Buddha explanation. When he heard the Buddha speaking with calmness voice, and even the thing that the Buddha explained in simple way, but somehow it's very profound. So he felt some trust with the Buddha. So again, he brought up the question that brought him there. So he said that Buddha, there were many people who say that you advise people not to love. They say that you have mentioned that the more you love others, the more suffering you may have. I can see some truth of this statement, but somehow I could not understand deeply. So without love, life would not function well. It's just like the empty of the meaning of life. So please explain for me this matter. So again, like everyone else, we live together, and because of love of our parents, love of our children, love of our siblings, spouse, we can live together. Without love, there's no way for us to live together. So that's what the king has a doubt about. So at that time, the Buddha looked at the king and reply kindly that your question is a very good one, and of course many people can benefit from this kind of insight question. But please take a note that there's many types of loves. We should understand clearly the nature of this kind of love. Of course, we need the love in life, but not short of love that based upon lust, patience, attachment, discrimination, and prejudice. So, but somehow this one kind of love that can contribute to our peacefulness and happiness. So we call them as loving kindness and compassion. So usually when people talk about love, they refer that type of love uh, only exists between parents and children, husband and wife, family members, or the members of one case or country or nation. Somehow this kind of love depend upon the recognition or attachment of me and mine. So it some sort of attachment and discrimination because they only love their parents, spouse, children, grandchildren, relatives, countrymen, but they could not love other people. Uh, so they uh, uh, love those people and attach to them. So definitely, whenever something happens to the one that they love, they become a worry, a concern about anything that may happen to their loved ones. So that is based upon the attachment. When attachment occur, the fear come about. So this means they love their family members and whoever they love, and they fear something happen to their loved one, and that's make them suffer. And also, love based upon discrimination will bring the prejudice. That means when we love our family members, our parents, and so forth, we would not care much, or we remain indifferent with the people that outside of our love circle. Uh, so that type of love based on discrimination and prejudice. And so that's been the sufferings for ourselves and others, especially for one that we consider themselves as the stranger. We would not care much if something happened to them, but we attach to our loved one, and we have the fear, concern, and worriness about the one that we in our circle of love, but we remain indifferent with the stranger, the one that stay outside of our circle of love. But the Buddha explained further is some type of love that could bring the happiness and peacefulness for others. There's been loving kindness and compassion. Uh, um, Loving kindness is the ability to remove the suffering from others, or the compassion that could help them to bring the happiness to them. So with this kind of loving kindness, we are not limited to our parents, spouse, siblings, countrymen, and so forth, we extend this type of love and kindness toward everyone else, or every sentient beings surrounding us. So on the top of that, with this type of love and kindness, there's no discrimination among nationality, gender, uh, um, skin, color of skin, and so forth. And on the top that there's no mine or not mine. And it's because there's no discrimination, so there's no attachment due to this kind of true love and kindness and compassion. We can bring the happiness and remove the suffering for others. So without this kind of love and kindness, like it remain empty. In the meanings, there's no meanings of life without this kind of love and kindness and compassion. Because this kind of love and kindness and compassion would bring peace, joy, and contentment toward everyone else, including us. And everyone will benefit by practicing this kind of loving kindness and compassion. So again, listen to the Buddha explanation. The king still have further doubt, and he asked the Buddha further that I have a family to care for and a country to run. If I don't love my own families and people, how could I care for them? Please clarify this doubt for me. That's what the king asked about. So he said he has the royal family to take care. He has the kingdom to take care of. So if he doesn't have any love, how could he take care of them? So the Buddha explained further that naturally we need to recognize that yes, there's nothing wrong to love our own families and people, but we need to expand that kind of love beyond our own families and people. Um, so the Buddha explained to the king that, of course, if you only love and care for your prince and princess, but doesn't prevent you from loving and caring for other people in the kingdom. If you can love all young people, now you have unlimited love, and you could embrace everyone's, including young and old people. And that was meant by having compassion. So it's pure practicals that we can put in practice, that we can spread that type of love, being kindness and compassion toward any young people like your prince and princess. And the king asked further, what about the young people of other kingdom? So the Buddha replied that definitely with your love to your prince, princess, and young people in your kingdom, you can extend your love to the young people of other kingdom as your son and daughter too. Even they don't live under your rules. So yeah, because one love one of people doesn't mean that you have the obstruction that you could not love other people in different country, in different kingdom. So the king asked further that how could I show my love to them? if they are not under my jurisdiction, under my rulings. So the Buddha replied to him that so you need to recognize as the security and the prosperity of your kingdom should not depend upon the poverty and insecurity of other nations. So if you want to develop a lasting peace and prosperity, you should work with other kingdoms for the commonwealth to find a common commitment to develop the web business for everyone in every nation or kingdoms. If you only want your kingdom to enjoy peace and prevent other young men from different kingdom to enjoy that kind of prosperity and peace, it would not happen. Only when you make peace with all the kingdoms, when you work for the sake of the welfare of everyone's on earth, you could bring the lasting peace and prosperity to your own kingdom. So the foreign and economic policy must follow the way of compassion for true peace to be possible. And that means only you care for your own kingdom, but you should spread that type of love and care to other kingdoms, such as Shaka, Kasi, Videha, Korea, and so forth. So here the Buddha mentioned that this king need to spread his love and kindness, compassion toward not only his young people within his kingdom, but also everyone in different kingdoms. So they need to work together in non-violent ways, in a peaceful way, in the understandable ways, so that they can work together for the common welfare of their people. And the Buddha mentioned his own experience that when he went back to visit his royal families in the second kingdom, he rest 7 days in Nakutila at the foot of Himalaya. So he spent much time reflecting on the politics based on non-violence, and he said that the nations can indeed enjoy peace and security without using any violent sources to fight, to occupy other countries. So he mentioned that he brought up this matter to his own fathers, the King Suddhodana. So now he said that he like to share with this king, so that he would apply this kind of loving kindness, compassion, non-violence, and so forth to run the country. So at that time, the king is so surprised to hear this in-depth explanation about loving kindness and compassion. And he said that your word is most inspiring. You are true and enlightened one. I promise I would reflect on whichever thing that you say today. I hope to learn something from your wisdom. But now, please explain further for me. Love does have some sort of discrimination, desire, and attachment. So according to you, this kind of love create worriness, suffering, and frustration. So how can we develop love without desire and attachment? How can I avoid creating the worriness and suffering in love that I have with my own children? So the Buddha said again that to recognize the true love, you need to look deeply at the nature of love. Uh, Love should bring peace and happiness to the one that we love. If love based on the selfish desire to control or possess other, we could not bring the happiness and peacefulness for them as well as for ourselves. Mm. On the other hand, if our love make them feel trapped, should love is no more than a prison. So if a person we love are unable to be happy because of our love, they will find a way to free themselves. There's no way for them to accept that kind of prison of love. And eventually, that kind of love might create anger and hostility between ourselves and others. So here the Buddha said that the true love is not based on controlling others, to trap others, to feel that they should stay within the prison of love. For example, if the husband love his wife so much that he tried to control every move of his wife has, and there's no way for both parties have the happiness and peacefulness, because if the husband finds that somehow the wife doesn't do things that he wants her to do, definitely he'll be angry, and vice versa. And the wife may have all kind of anxiety, to worry or concern about her mistake that may incite her husband anger, and so forth. So that is calling the type of controlling love, love that control others. Another things the Buddha say here too, if someone feel that they live in the prison of love, that means they could not get away from our controlling. So there's no way for them to remain peace, because they don't want to stay in that kind of prison. Eventually, they will find some way out. And definitely, if they don't follow our expectation, they will have some kind of anxiety as well as us too. So, for example, let's say if we say that our children must stay at home no matter what, even they grown up, they must stay with us for the rest of their life because we care them so much. But what happens if our children, when they grown up, they go to school and they get the jobs of town, a different state, and somehow because we expect them to stay home with us, but somehow uh, while they staying around here, they would not find the job that they like, or even they would not have the friends that they prefer to have. So that trap them here. So if we let them to choose things that they want to do, whether it's their friends, or their jobs, their education, and so forth, we would create that kind of freedom situation for them to choose from, and they will be more happy than the way that we expect them to stay here, stay at our house with us for the rest of their life. So that is, we can let them go of this kind of trap love. So that's what the Buddha say. So go back, the Buddha said again, he mentioned about one story regarding the selfish love. This is a story the Buddha recalled and remind the king that a mother felt that she has been abandoned by her son when he fell in love and married with a young girl. So instead of being happy that her son get married and having a daughter-in-law, so the mother felt that she lost her son, and she felt betrayed by him. So because of that, her love turned into hatred, and so she put poisons in the couple's food that killed them. So again, the Buddha gave this type of real story to illustrate his point. That's when we try to control other people, when we think that we love other people, but if somehow they don't return that kind of similar love, our love may turn to hatred and revenge. So that's what happened with this model. So the Buddha explained further that according to the wisdom, love cannot exist without understanding, because with understanding you have the healthy love, healthy relationship. If the wives and husband could not understand each other, they could not love each other. That means if the husband could not understand the wife's needs and vice versa, the wives could not recognize what their husband needs, whether it's the material, wealth, and so forth. There's no way to remain in love with each other. And that's why so many couples filed the divorce, because they could not understand the needs for each other. And as the Buddha further say that the brother and sister again should understand each other to maintain the love, as well as the parents and children. So the parents, again, like I give that analogy, if they don't understand or recognize the needs of the children going out how to study or find a job, and they only ask or require the children to stay back with them, that's not the true love. That creates suffering for both parties. If the children want to go, but they could not, it raised some kind of anger and disappointment with each other. So the Buddha explained further, if you want your loved one to be happy, you must learn to understand their suffering and their wishes. When you understand them, you will know how to relieve their sufferings and how to help them to fulfill their wishes. That is true love. If you only want your love to follow your own ideas and desire, and if you don't recognize their needs, that is not the true love. It only brings sufferings to yourself and others, because you only think about yourself. You don't think or understand other people. So that is the Buddha explanation again. in life, we see that if we don't know the needs of our children, if we don't know the needs of our spouse, whether, let's say, uh, if our children need a car to go to school, to go to work, we don't provide that, don't help them to have the top transportation. It will be suffering for them. They may take public transportation. Uh, um, it may be inconvenience for them. And if we say, oh, okay, you don't need that, but actually they really need to have some sort of transportation like the cars and so forth. And that's really suffering for them. So no matter what, we need to recognize the needs of other people and to lessen their sufferings. If we don't recognize their needs, there's no way for us to help them, and there's no way for them to recognize our love. So the Buddha say further that the people of Kosala have suffering and wishes, and if you understand the suffering and wishes, you'll be able to truly love them. And the Buddha explained further that his officer, um, parents, children, and so forth, as long as he understands their suffering and wishes, he could help them to reduce the sufferings as well, fulfilling their wishes. That is the true love for them. So when people enjoy the happiness, peace, and joy, uh, um, the Buddha said that you yourself will have that peacefulness and happiness too. That is the meaning of love according to me as a light one. So again, we will try to explain in many ways so that the king could recognize what the true love is. So in general, the Buddha mentioned that if we want to love others, we need to understand who they are, what they need, what they want, what they wish for, and what problems they encounter deal with, so that we can provide um, them, I support them in any ways that lessen their sufferings and support their wishes and so forth. So at that time, after listening to the long conversation, explanation of the Buddha, the king Pasenadi was deeply moved because before no spiritual teachers ever explained to him deeply about the meanings of love. So he recognized as it was his blessing to have the Buddha here in his country to teach him this type of insight meanings of love. So he made that decision that he wants to follow the Buddha ways of life, to become a Buddha disciple. But somehow at that moment, he put palm together and said that I really appreciate what you have said, because you opened my mind to see things in different way, in the proper way. But somehow I still have the doubt that love based upon desire and attachment will create suffering and frustration, while love based upon compassion brings peace and happiness. I still have the doubt about that, but of course I see that love based upon compassion is not the selfish, I said serving, but it's different pain and suffering. I love my people when they suffer because of nature disaster, like flooding, hurricane, and so forth. I suffer too. So I think you have the same feeling when you see other people suffer because of those nature disaster. How could you explain about that? So again, up to this point, we can still have the doubt about loving kindness, especially if something struck their people, like nature disaster. Since time is up, let me stop here today. And next time we can discuss this topic further. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.